Okay, so I'm ready to start designing. Remember, we inserted the photo and we put it on layer 1. Layer 1 is locked down, so if I click on the photo, my mouse is not detecting it. Then we created layer 2. Layer 2 is highlighted. I want to design on layer 2. And so I'm going to go into my design library over here on the left. Now before I do that, let me zoom in on the window so I can see it a little bit better. I'm going to click on my magnifying glass over here, the zoom in magnifying glass. There, I can see my window a little bit better. Now if I go into my design library, I'm going to go into the first category, design with components. This is my largest category, and remember, we have a tutorial on our website that goes into the design library. There's a lot of information in here, and if you will recall, if you looked at the Getting Started video, that the design library has a lot of categories and subcategories. Designs with components. I'm going to go into swag designs and pull out a design. And I think I'll go with this one. This is a board swag design. Notice under swag designs they are categorized by header style, and I'm grabbing a board swag design. So let me just pull that on to the canvas. And just FYI, remember, if you see gold buttons in the preview window, it's always a good idea to click on them, and then you'll be able to see all the components that go into this design. They can be components or related designs. But I'm going to close my browser window here, and I'm going to dress this window. So if I move the design over on the window, I'm going to resize this. Now in this instance, I do want to maintain the proportions of the design, so I'm going to depress my Shift key and drag on the corner handle. I mean, you don't have to maintain the proportions. You can just resize it by pulling on any one of the handles, but in this case, I'm just going to maintain the proportions. Great, now I just want to move the treatment over to the right a little bit. I could use my mouse to move it over, but I just need to move it over ever so slightly because the right side is not covering the frame of the window. It's a little tough to see. And in order to just nudge it gently into place, I can use the arrow key on my keyboard. I'm going to use the right arrow key on my keyboard, and I'm just going to nudge that treatment ever so slightly to the right. That nudge key works really well. There, I'm happy. Now notice how the right panel is actually sitting on top of the chair in the photo. We're going to show you how you can tuck that panel right behind the chair a little bit later in the video. Now I do want to add some fabric to this treatment, but before I do that, I'd actually like to save this portfolio. And I can do that by clicking on my save icon right here. Or I can go ahead and click on File, Save Portfolio. And just navigate to where you want to save your design and type in the name. And I think I'm going to call this Design on Photo. And you can just click the Save button. You don't have to type the extension. Dream Draper files have an extension of DDF. You don't have to type it, just click on the Save button. The program will automatically append the appropriate extension. There, I've saved my file. And you can see at the top, my file name is right up here, Design on Photo. Alright, I'd like to fill this with fabric. Now, Drapery comes with a couple of fabric swatches that are pre-built into the program, and these are to play with. We've got a cashmere collection down here, and these are just a small sample of fabric swatches, and we've got a small sample of Lady Anne swatches. In order to fill my design, make sure that the design is highlighted, which it is. You can see that right here. It's highlighted. And you can just double click on one of these swatches. And I'll go ahead and double click on this one right here. There. My design is now filled with the fabric. A big feature of Drapery is the ability to add your own swatches. I'm not going to cover that in this particular lesson. We do have tutorials online that show you exactly how to add your own swatches. And all of this is, of course, covered in the quick reference guide. Alright, here's my window treatment that I've put on the photo, and I filled it with fabric. Now, just FYI, sometimes when you are filling a design with fabric, sometimes the detail lines get a little bit washed out if it happens to be a busy fabric, and you can darken those lines. I just want to show you how you can do that. You've got to have your design highlighted, which it is, and over on the right is your Properties tab. Now, similar to the Layers window, put your mouse over the Properties tab and the Properties window will open up. I do like to have my Properties window open when I'm designing, so again, click on that middle icon. Looks like a push pin on a PC or a dot on a Mac. There. Now you can see I've got both my Properties window open at the top and my Layers window open at the bottom. And if you have trouble viewing all the contents, you can move that window over to the left and enlarge it. So in this example, you know, you can still see the detailed lines. If I want to make them darker, I can go ahead and I'm going to scroll down until I see stroke width. And I've got a little arrow. I can just click on the upper button, the upper arrow, and make my lines darker. There, do you see that? Now, if you want to make your lines a little bit lighter, you can type in a number. But if you do type in a number here, make sure to hit the Enter key when you're done typing. Alright, I'd like to zoom out so I can see more of the photo. I'm going to click on my zoom out icon right up here. It's the magnifying glass with the minus sign. There. I can see my whole photo now. And remember, if I go to print out this design, this is pretty big. I could have made my photo larger to fit the rectangular area, but you know, this looks pretty good. So I think my customer would have a good idea as to what the treatment would look like. Now we are going to come back to this photo because there are a few things that I'd like to do. As I mentioned earlier, I do want to tuck that panel behind the chair, maybe add a hard treatment, maybe do some other things. Now before I leave this design, I'm going to save it again by clicking on my save icon. Just an FYI, if you happen to be working on a design for a long time, maybe making a lot of modifications, it's always a good idea to have a backup. So occasionally, if I have worked on a design for a long time, I might do a file, save portfolio as, and rename my design. So this one right now is called Design on Photo. I might have a version called Design on Photo 2, or design on photo 3. It's really helpful to have a backup, especially if your design is complex and you've been working on it a long time. Sometimes I will have manipulated something so much that I want to throw it away and go back to an earlier version. So that's very helpful. But now let's move on to another example, and then we're going to come back to this one.